Does a human in reality have a will? Does he not? Let's talk about that. So when your mom delivered you to this life, you look stupid as fuck, but with a blend of innocence and cuteness. But well, the point now is that you primarily come shipped with some sort of a database of instincts, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Some inherited and unique properties and brand new empty memory and experience pages ready to get filled with data that you will be referring to for every step that you take. Now, as you grow up, you'll be automatically and continuously collecting tons of data from the environment around you in form of thoughts and experiences, which are gonna fill into your memory and experience sectors. Now, every single data entry out of, let's say, an infinite number of data can be perceived and interpreted differently. And that is what makes every individual distinct and why people act differently, and that is based on 1. Physical senses perception, such as the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and plenty of other internal and external senses. A color-blind person might argue all he wants with a non-color-blind that there is no difference between the green and red colors. That is because his eye sensor or its concerned peripherals is acting in a more limited way for whatever the actual cause was. 2. Modular internal interpretation heuristics or algorithms. Human interpretation is pretty complex, as it can also be based on other previously interpreted data, and the whole calculation goes recursive to finally come out with a certain interpretation. So now, how do we make our decisions? Based on what? Obviously, we are going to use a combination of instincts and pre-interpreted data in the form of thoughts, experiences, and emotions to come up with one that also has its own algorithm to calculate the final decision based on weights associated with every variable in the equation. Having in mind that process as well depends on other instincts and pre-interpreted data as well. That sounds repetitive, I know. It's complex to understand all of that because of the recursive mechanism it has. But doing so will help us with answering the big question that we have a will. Here is a random example. Why did someone decide to be a vegan? Well, for some people, when they thought of or saw animals being killed for us to eat them, they interpreted it in a very sensitive way. Perhaps based on some sensitive inherited characteristics from ancestors, or maybe because of a self-imagined experience, where they can imagine how they would experience death and how awful it would be based on gluing some chunks of life experiences together, and they don't want anything else to undergo such an agony. For others, it might be that they've got fed a lot of information from other people about its ethical aspect, to how healthy veganism could be, and how it can make you feel very happy and powerful. Now, assuming that a big audience has been exposed to the same information, why would some get convinced and others not? That is because the way they interpret it is based on evaluation of data based on its associated weight and value, which is once again based on other bunch of pre-interpreted data. And that's why different people react differently to it. So wait a sec, now that we understand how it works, let's recapitulate a bit. We are born with an instincts database and some inherited and unique attributes in which we have no control over having it. We automatically and continuously collect data from the environment and people around us in which initially we have no control over. Our perception of raw data is based on physical senses which we are born with, and our interpretation is based on modular heuristics or algorithms. That, although modular, we can't really control it. It'll regulate itself with recursion based on yet other interpreted and weighed inputs. Therefore, and since deciding is solely based on the above-mentioned points in which we have no control over, we don't seem to have a will based on logical deduction, and we can't decide things in this life. We just have the illusion that we are in control. In short, you can think about our decisions and choices as a final product of an ongoing automatic exceedingly long chain reaction of interpreted data derived from inputs via certain interpretation heuristics. That, of course, we don't decide, so how the fuck am I responsible for that? This definitely is a big subject, since if the concept of will is proven void, this renders laws and religions meaningless and destroys the base, and there we go. Well, although the conclusion shows that a human will does not exist based on logical deduction, this still leaves space to theories that are out of the logic boundaries that we have. Not that I could think of any. More into the spiritual world, if you may want to call it so. That was it for today. If you have any questions that you need answered, or have some counter logic for that, please comment it and I'll be glad to respond whenever I could. Have a great day.